Hi everybody, my name is Gary Metzger. Born in 1955, so I'm age 62. Number 3 out of 5 children. Born and raised in Monmouth County, New Jersey. Grew up in Rumson. My joke is that you have to be able to pay the taxes before you can spell it. I was born blind. Also was given the umbrella diagnosis of cerebral palsy back in the 50s. The Institutes for the Achievement of Human Potential in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, put me on a program there which helped me recover about 70% of my vision, but it limits me to the extent that I do not drive. In the 70s, I went back to the Institute and learned about the medical aspects of the program, and I learned anatomy and physiology, some neurology, and some optometry like an eye doctor would. So I've traveled throughout the world helping the young adults and children. I've been throughout Europe, specifically England, and down to Brazil and South America. I have a good recipe for feijoada. I spent about 5 or 6 years of my life giving back. I did work in the public accounting industry. Met a woman in 1981. We had a loving relationship for about 8 years. The real plus is that she brought joy into it. That was very important, and she was supportive, and what she did and what was important was to help people. Friendship is something that I really value, and that's important. Visionaries get things done, and I kind of look for that in a person also. But I think what is important is to find someone willing to say, well, it's okay to feel something, instead of stuffing your feelings. And it's okay to see each other kind of right out of the box. I go to Ohio and I meet people that I see once a year. I have friends from Florida, Texas, and then my friend in Ohio. I will have an interest in the law. And I kind of enjoy it because it puts me in touch with the human issues and the real, I like to call the people issues. It helps me kind of carry forward what my friend Tom Jardine taught me. He taught me to do the right thing. He also said that if you do the right thing, you have something to fall back on. I'm taking what I'm learning in the law courses and in other places and helping other people. I'm big on networking and can do that. When I'm not busy at Rutgers in the summer, I volunteer up at City Harvest, which is in New York City. It's the largest food collection and distribution for the poor to the soup kitchens. It's also important for me to have somebody that also gives back. So I would just ask that it's important to talk about everything, and I would want to find a mate that welcomes talking about everything. Just find somebody that I can love by their presence, somebody that has some vision, a relatively forward-thinking individual who's warm and outgoing. It's okay to be together, which is important to me. And then just invest the time in the relationship. Never go to bed angry. I just want to take a few minutes and tell you a bit about my interest, or at least one of them, which is cooking. Dad actually taught 5 of us he taught us how to cook in our own self-defense because my mother never could. I enjoy baking, and I think the story behind this, the humorous thing about this is that I went to a radio club meeting because I also have a hobby of amateur radio, and somebody came in with chocolate chip cookies, and I got disgusted and said that we have to do better and shouldn't accept the status quo. So I immediately went home, made a recipe of molasses spice cookies, and brought them into the meeting, which everybody enjoyed. I also collect cookbooks. I have about 200 cookbooks, and I've collected over about 10 or 15 years, probably about 10 or 15 different cuisines, and want to find somebody that I can share the kitchen with. So I have about 3 or 4 books that are just devoted to cookies. If we get involved, I'd certainly be willing to share them with you. If you're interested, I look forward to sharing some cooking with you, and hopefully we can find a kitchen that's large enough to fit 2 of us. I've been involved in amateur or ham radio for about 45 years. My mother thanks my friend Tom Jardine profusely for introducing me to the hobby. In December '72, I was invited over to Tom Jardine's house, who put me on the radio so I could learn a bit about the radio and play with it for a while. And within 2 weeks, I was learning the Morse code in my house and building a receiver in my cellar. And within 6 months, I had passed my first operating exam and got my first operating license in June of '73. You can put a call out on the radio, but you never know who you'll run into, and that's the joy of it. So you always make a new friend. We're also active in public service to the extent that when Superstorm Sandy came to New Jersey, the hams were very active, and they were the only people who could provide communications because all the cell phones and the other methods of communication had gone down. What you have in front of us here is what they call a Maestro remote. And what that does, that lets me operate the Morse code or the CW. And when the headphones are not in, you can actually hear the code signals or the Morse code signals coming over the air. I use a key here to transmit and send my Morse code. On my left here, we have what we call as a log, where I put in all of the stations that I may contact throughout the world, and I keep an active record of those. The major point and design of the system is that it's all done remotely out in Ohio, and that's where the major station is. This is something I've done for about 45 years and enjoyed a great deal. But to my potential mate, I don't live in an amateur radio monastery, and always willing to put some time into a relationship. Hopefully we can make a connection with some common interest.